So you're a live show host, self-produced, looking for ways to streamline your process. There are few hacks better than keyboard shortcuts to cut down on movements. Most, if not all, streaming platforms have these shortcuts, also known as hotkeys, and we're especially excited for their ability to integrate with devices like the Stream Deck. What if a streaming platform gave you more hotkeys than you knew what to do with? I'm Kirk Nugent, your live video coach, and on this channel, I give you the step-by-step guides and practical tutorials for the do-it-yourself video creator that learns visually. And today, we're looking at EVMUX hotkeys, how to set them up, and how to integrate them with the Stream Deck. So here we are on my desktop looking at EVMUX, and we're already inside the studio with my camera on screen. The first thing we want to do is identify where the hotkeys are. And so those are up here in the top right where your name is, or whoever the studio host or producer is. Your name is here. You would click the down arrow, and right there next to log out, you have an option for hotkey settings. So we click on that. And in your hotkey settings, you are going to notice here that there is a lot, a lot of hotkeys to pick from. Play scenes has to do with pro scenes. So as we set up in the past, we had pro scenes. You can click to go to next scene, previous scene. You can even transition from live, so from their edit to live, so program and preview. And then you can actually just play scenes directly in program. So these affect program directly. So you have 9 of these play scene ones. Then you have your edit scenes, right? So in program, you can edit. In preview, you can edit. Program is what your live audience is seeing. And sometimes as a producer or as a show host that's self-produced, you need to be able to edit some scenes on the fly. So we have this here, select next scene, previous scene. All of these are for edit. And so you can see the corresponding hotkey. Now you're gonna wanna go through and set your hotkeys to whatever you know will work for you. But let's just kind of make our way through the rest of these here. So we have our edit, and you'll notice that those are blank, and I'll get to why those are blank later. You have templates. And templates has dynamic scene template 1, template 2, and so on. This is your dynamic scene layouts that you have across the bottom. You have about 6-7 of those. So you have all of those here available as hotkeys. You can select solo, cropped, your wide, double. You can have your screen share on screen, all of those here as templates. So we'll play with those and see how those work on screen. You also have some generic hotkeys, muting the editor, muting the live preview, muting backstage. Of course, these 3 are for you as the producer or self-produced. And then you have your inputs, and muting their microphone, disabling camera. Then you have a number of cameras you can choose from in the system. And unless you have multiple cameras added, maybe those might not be for you. And again, you want to think about that. Banners, and then you have show last hide comment. You have hide current banner, hide current ticker. So all of these are options you have here in the system. And again, you'll see the corresponding keystroke or keyboard combination or hotkey that will go along with that shortcut. You have slideshow, and then of course, lastly, we have go live and end broadcast. For me, I've set that to Control G. I'm going to open out or bring up some other items on screen. You can see my little cheat sheet here where I have notated some frequently used hotkeys, frequently used functions that I would want hotkeys for. So under Pro Scenes, scroll back up to the top, I have Control Shift N, Control Shift P, and you can see those here as well. I have those written down. I have Control Shift 1, which is scene 1, and of course that will take me all the way through scene 9. So I'm just going to put -9 here, and that's going to take me through scenes 1 through 9, so that I don't have to type all of those out. Again, we also have select for edit. In my workflow, would not be using a hotkey to select something to edit in the live show. If I was self-produced, I'm not going to edit on the fly, at least not with a hotkey. So I have chosen to leave these blank and not use them. And so you're going to want to go through here and set these the way that you want them. Then we go to templates. These are for your dynamic scenes. So here I have dynamic scene 1 and 2, and literally they're just control. So all of these will go through 7. So I'm going to go 3 through 7 here, just underneath dynamic, because it's control 1 is template 1, control 2, template 2. So I have that as my cheat sheet, as my note, and I know what I need to do to make those hotkeys work in my live show as I'm producing my own show. I have some other hotkeys here that I know I'll be using. Control Shift M to mute microphone, Control Shift C to turn on or off my camera, right? So those are some that I want. Shift C for comments, Shift B for banners, Shift T for the ticker, and then of course Control G for go live. I do have some slides here. I don't use the cameras, so that's why I'm scrolling past those, but I do have slideshows. I did give an example of that, so we'll be able to use that next and previous slide. So now I have my cheat sheet. I have my hotkeys saved. I want to pause there because you do want to go through and save your hotkeys. Don't leave that screen without saving your hotkeys after you have them set the way that you want them. And to be clear, you want to make sure that the keyboard shortcuts are unique to those specific hotkeys. Personally, I don't plan on using the keyboard shortcuts. I want to use them with the Stream Deck. But if you ever do need to use those shortcuts, you want to make sure you have a cheat sheet to kind of know where those are. So now I've got my cheat sheet. I've got all this stuff saved here. Let's now go into setting this up on Stream Deck. In order to do that, I'm going to slide this over to the side here. So I have my cheat sheet and we have our Stream Deck. And on the Stream Deck, I'm in profile 1 and I'm going to just edit this profile. I'm going to edit that name. I'm going to call this profile EVMUX test. I'm just going to call it that because I already have one called EVMUX. So we have that saved there. First things I always like to do is on my Stream Deck is not only rename the profile, but I want to add a page. You can see here, add a page. I hit this plus sign that adds another page. And so what that does, it also adds this arrow icon here. And what I can do is I can go back to the previous page by clicking it, and you'll see that it adds an arrow icon here as well. Next thing that I want to do is add a profile switcher so that I can switch between my profiles without actually having to open back up this software. So in order to add the profile switcher, you actually come up here to where it says Stream Deck, and we expand that and we say switch profile. I'm just going to drag that right onto the screen next to the next page one, and that will enable me to toggle through my profiles. And so if I click that profile, it will toggle me through the different, the switch profile button will toggle me through all the different profiles I have in the Stream Deck. Now, the welcome icon, you can go ahead and delete. You can select that. You can just hit the trash can here and delete it. The other 4 icons I have here are for Ecamm, something totally different. So don't worry about those. We'll just kind of make our way through the remainder of the things that we're going to want to do. Because EVMUX is not directly integrated with the Stream Deck, we will have to create hotkeys for each one of the items that we want. So let's start with some of our generic hotkeys that we have here in the cheat sheet. And we're going to just go to where it says system here on the right side of the Stream Deck software system. And we have where it says hotkey switch, hotkey open text. We actually want hotkey. I'm going to zoom in on that a little bit. We want hotkey. So we're going to drag that up to onto the screen, onto one of the buttons. And now that hotkey is there, we're going to call this one mute. All right, we'll call it mute. And what are we going to put in for mute? Control Shift M. So I'm going to, it says observing. You can see here observing keystrokes. I'm going to do Control Shift M. And you'll see that now Control Shift M is in that slot. Control Shift M is in that slot. And that shortcut is done. You may want to go through and select some icons. So you can open the Stream Deck icon library, and you can set some icons for your shortcuts, your Stream Deck buttons, so that it looks decent, but it's not going to make it work any better than it currently does. It just makes it look prettier on screen. Some people go ahead and design them. You can actually upload them from a file and upload them that way. So there are many different options for your Stream Deck. If you have those files on your system, you can do it that way. For the purpose of time here, we're just going to continue moving on. Let's do our camera one. Let's do another hotkeys, drag it onto the Stream Deck profile here. Let's call this camera, and we will click here where it says click to assign. Once we click in this item here, you can see it says observing keystrokes, and our keystroke for this one is Control Shift C. So we Control Shift C, you can see that there is now, and it's saved into that button, and it's observing the keystroke so that when you hit the button, it will do the keystroke. So we've done two. I'm gonna do a couple of more that are slightly different. So you can see some of the other ones in the cheat sheet here. Next slide, previous slide, Control G for go live, ticker, banner, comment. Let's go up a little bit. Let's do a dynamic hotkey, which is Control 1. So same process, we drag this hotkey onto the screen here. We're gonna say, this is a solo. That dynamic scene is the solo layout. So I'm gonna name it solo layout, and I'm going to do Control 1, boom, Control 1. That takes us to solo layout. Let's do one more hotkey. Let's drag that hotkey onto the screen here. Let's say crop. And maybe crop is better than crop layout, because you can see how that is there. So Control 2, and that gets us to our second one. Now let's scroll up a little bit more. We have Control Shift N for next scene, previous scene. Then we have Control Shift 1 through 9 for our saved scenes. These are probably where I will be using this the most. And so let's give that as a quick example. And then I'm going to do a quick little speed up, and I'll show you what my Stream Deck looks like in the end. This is next scene. So that's next scene. And so next scene is Control Shift N. You can see here that is observing, Control Shift N. And so now Control Shift N is there. We have that set as our next scene. Hotkey, boom, drop it on there. You can see this process, it's not very hard. You can pretty much have this set up in about a half hour or so. And this is gonna be our previous scene. You know, what is funny is I always do this. I always put previous scene after next scene. I always want them the other way around. But either way, you can see here, click to assign, and this is gonna be Control Shift P. And we have that in there now, Control Shift P. So we have mute, camera, solo layout, crop, next scene, previous scene. I'm gonna move these around, and we'll show you what that looks like with everything done. All right, we're back, and you can see that my Stream Deck buttons look a little bit different. And the reason for that is, of course, there is a lot of different things that I wanted to showcase here. I utilized some of the Stream Deck icons that we were able to save from another streaming platform for some of my dynamic layouts. So these are the dynamic scenes. You can see Control 1, Control 2, Control 3, Control 4, Control 5, Control 6, and then Control 7. So we have 7 different scenes here. Here we have dynamic scene 1, right? So dynamic 1. Then we also have, actually this is pro scene 1. And then we have pro scene 2, Control Shift 2, pro scene 3, pro scene 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We have 9 of those pro scenes. Then we have our previous scene. You see, I did it again. And then next scene, And we also have the ability to transition between scenes with this one here. So transition between preview and program with this button. We also have our next and previous slides. We can control our mute button for the edit screen, for the live screen, and then backstage. We have still our profiles. We have our go live. We have our start broadcast, end broadcast. We still have our mic scene, unmute and mute microphone, disable camera. We have the comments, and we have the banners, and of course we have the ticker. Everything already ready to go. So now let's dive back into EVMUX. Let's try out some of the shortcuts, and then let's try out some of the Stream Deck buttons. So here we are back on my desktop. We're going to try out again, as I mentioned, some of the keyboard shortcuts. And so I have my cheat sheet in front of me because I need that. And so let us try to mute the microphone. So we will Control-Shift-M, and you can see that my microphone on screen is now muted. Control-Shift-M has muted that. And it even says, hey, you're muted. We're going to ignore that. Control-Shift-M again to unmute that microphone. All right, so Control-Shift-C is our camera. So we can turn off that camera. You can see what that looks like. Control-Shift-C turns that camera back on. What else we have here? Control-Shift-C, Shift-C puts a comment on screen. So this is the sample comment. Shift-C takes it off. Shift-B puts a banner on screen. Now, some of them may or may not work while we are not live, while we're not recording. So we may end up having to click the record button to get some of these to work. But next thing we want to do is add our other camera on screen. So we have that here. And let's take a look at some of the layouts, some of the dynamic layouts. So we have Control-1, which would be adding just me to the screen. Control-2 would be that would give us that second one. Control-3, you can see that it's giving me these layouts here on the bottom. Control-4 doesn't really change anything because we need 3 cameras for that. Control-5 gives us that picture-in-picture layout. Control-6 gives us this layout. Control-7 gives us the other layout. So we have several of those all set ready to go, and we can see that they're working just by using the keyboard. But some of you are probably still stuck on this screen here where you're seeing the Stream Deck, right? The Stream Deck is on screen, and we will take advantage of that in just a second. Pro scenes, we have it set to our first pro scene being Control-Shift-1. So we're going to do Control-Shift-1, Control-Shift-1. All right, so Control-Shift-1 takes us to our scene there. It puts us on the pro scenes here, and we can select, let's say we'll select this other scene here, and let's go to transition again, or better yet, let's do Control-Shift-N, which is going to take us to the next scene. You can see that takes us to the countdown clock. Let's do Control-Shift-N again, which takes us to the intro. Control-Shift-N again takes us to the host. All of these scenes are in order. So if we try to, let's say, just go to the countdown clock, which I believe is scene 3, Control-Shift-3 will do that for us. So that is the shortcut that I set up for that particular scene. And again, we can hit our transition button whenever we're ready to transition from preview to program. So we have that ability to do that as well. Last, we want to go to one of our scenes here. I believe I have a scene where we have the stream. We have a flyer, right? Well, not flyer, sorry. We have our, there we go. We have that there. I'm going to hit transition. We have a slideshow. So we have our slideshow, and in order to do next slide, previous slide, we do Control-Shift up and down. So I'm going to try that. You can see that it's going there. That's taking us through the slides. I can go down, down, down. And of course, I can hit the next previous slide buttons. We want the next slide. So there's our next slide, previous slide, just by clicking on the Stream Deck. So again, you can see how powerful this would be for your live show, even as you are doing things as a live show host. Now we are on this scene where we're actually looking at this Stream Deck, and you can see what that looks like in terms of the buttons that are there, the dynamic scenes that are across the top, the ticker, the different buttons here. I can mute and unmute the mic. You can see that that's happening on screen there. I can turn on and off my camera. Again, you can see that happening on screen there. I can bring up a comment. Again, you can see that happening on screen there. And we have the tickers and different other things that you can do to control your system using not only hotkeys, keyboard shortcuts, but also the Stream Deck. And we hope that this was helpful for you. A few things to note before we go. Hotkeys are keyboard shortcuts, so be sure to pick ones that you won't accidentally hit and perform unwanted actions. Number 2, think through your show flow to identify often done actions you would want a shortcut for. Number 3, unlike other platforms, EVMUX has a ridiculous amount of hotkeys, which is a blessing and a curse. Don't be afraid to ignore some of them and really focus on the ones you need. Learn more about EVMUX or other streaming platforms in these videos.